Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode. I wanted to speak about possibility probabilities and share some ideas about what enables species, uh, how enabled species would be composed. I've been thinking about reality, I've been thinking about the human position, and I've come into this very interesting conclusion that after some point, when it comes to the development of our ideological systems, there are infinite viewpoints. So what happens is, at first, when you enter this world, you're a young kid and you don't know anything. You feel that knowledge and understanding and the mysteries of reality, their answers are outside of you. However, that's the beginning games of life. Okay, the child is in some sense realizes that there's more to know, but it doesn't know it yet. Then it's going about finding a way to know it. Possibility probabilities is a suggestion that a species wonders about all the probabilities of its ability. You see, right now, it's a very unique time. I'm kind of born between, it's like I'm born outside of a door, or I'm born in the middle of a revolving door. We're born at a time where our natural journey as biological entities has reached a climax. A natural biological entity has discovered an unnatural relationship with itself. Consciousness is bizarre in the sense that this creature evolved 4.5 billion years. Imagine 4.5 billion years of just going towards a direction, and once you get to the direction, you're conscious as a creature, and all the stuff that was in your unconscious has become your conscious. What that has come into your conscious. We are right now experiencing pre-ability probabilities of reality. You know what it is? You look at a human being, I don't know, this is something I found the ability to do. I think everybody who pretty much just like you grow up after some point, you can notice and you can appreciate like lesser past archetypes that you went through. When I look at human beings everywhere, wherever I go, when I see human beings, the main question that comes to me is that how aware is this being of what it is? Most people are living a subjective life. They're not actually in the outer realms. The outer realms is bizarre. You know, the atheist, the secular, the scientific mind speak about the outer realms so easily. The outer realms is one of the most bizarre things that is going on. The fact that what is physicalism? What is materialism? When our access to the material is through a non-physical experience. You see, consciousness plus two other things is equaling the human intelligence, I find. Okay, there we go. Okay. You know, there will come a moment where we will all have to leave this world. While we're in it, our attitude matters. The attitude the human species has is not one of collective ability for now, it's one of individual ability. What this means is that people are trying to be capable and are improving their lives in their own worlds rather than actually trying to improve the life of the outer realms, which is an impersonal public physical server we're all in. The inner realms is our private mental server. Every person has this. You know, I ask myself, is it possible to be completely loved throughout the lifetime? Is it possible to completely be hated in the lifetime? And the way this life works is that in the human experience, there are a certain range of type of experiences that have to happen before an exit can be authorized. Just like we have airplanes, right, in airports, and the airplane, unless it has contact and it has the green light, it doesn't fly off, right, until it's as if both positions are contacted and everything's set, and then the pilot just goes and presses a button and it autopilots. Our species has been blessed by being foolish. Through the foolishness of our species, we have discovered so much more than before. And so it's bizarre, you know, because when we think of what is smart, smart is safety, it is survival. When we think of what is stupid, it's in some sense risk. And if the risk pays off, people will be like, you're a genius. If the risk doesn't pay off, oh my God, you poor bastard, you know? Like, but there is an effort, you know, there is an effort in this world. So, post-ability probabilities. You know, I keep looking at the viewers of the chat, you know, and, you know, I forget, you know, for who I started giving these talks. You know, it's remarkable. When we are alone, we access ourselves. When we're with others, we access ourselves, filterized versions of ourselves. You know, this might be a strange thing to say, but somebody has to say it. I have never felt free in the presence of another being. Let me tell you why I haven't felt free. Because the options of caring and not caring, both of them are attachments. So if I care for someone, I'm attached to their destiny. If I don't care for them, do you understand? They, in some sense, they are still being part of the destiny of my world. You know, I'll give you an example. Imagine there's like 8 billion people on the planet, and you could make a team of 10 people. Who would you have on that team? Would you have people smarter than you? Would you have people stupider than you? Would you have people who are more ignorant? When I say smart or stupid, the only thing that determines that is interest and disinterest. Stupid people are people who have not been interested in what was necessary. Smart people are people who were interested in everything. That's the smartest people I've seen. The smartest people they're never satisfied with an answer, and it seems like they're endlessly solving this problem. And I do understand from like the yogic mystical context, the path of the Raja Yogi is a limited one. Pretty much, let me tell you what happens. If you pursue the path of intellect on earth to discover the truth of it, you will come to infinity. Infinity means right now you're a dualistic entity. You don't have the hassle, the burden of infinite responsibility. You have the burden of temporary responsibility for a little part of existence that you're being. This secret of responsibility is the key to, if there is ever such a thing as spiritual attainment. Let me tell you what happens. Pretty much we're this being. We appear in an unknown world. We're an unknown self to ourselves. We don't know what's looking through our eyes, but what is looking through our eyes is accessing information. It can use the information as a clue to get a sense of what it is. But unfortunately, the way the human being is being conditioned is that you think you are the information rather than you are the observer of the information. For example, a materialist looks at its body in a mirror and says, yo, I'm made of matter. This information is me. It's an identification with information, really. Right? Because what was it? It was an identification with objects, then an identification with subjects. Then we're like, yo, the world can be objective and subjective. What else? And then the mysteries of reality constantly go to the unknown. You know what's going on? We think it's a known being in an unknown world. It's like one side of the coin. You are lost in form. And the other side of the coin, you're found in space. This episode is focusing on how to get a species, in some sense, ASAP towards its post-ability realization. So we have this notion of ability, which is the capacity to do something. Then we have pre-ability, meaning the capacity to do something is not there. This is something important in the quality of leadership. For example, think of like a traditional nuclear family. You have a father, you have a mother, you have a son. Okay, son or daughter. But let's say you have a son and daughter. Okay. Now imagine, something happens. They hear like a sound outside. In that situation, right, the traditional nuclear family where the mother is a housewife and the father is a working man. In that situation, the father realizes, okay, the children don't have the capacity to, in some sense, deal with it. And then the father goes, my wife has the capacity to deal with it, but it's unnecessary because I'm here. And then who has the greatest ability to deal with the situation? Okay? So, in some sense, it's as if it's a recognition of one's ability, a recognition of others' ability, and then if your ability surpasses them, it's not just an ego thing. Yeah, you gotta act. Do you understand? The strong protect the weak. The wise protect the foolish. The future protect the present. That's how it is. The past were champions. Our ancestors who got us here, champions. Slow hand clap for all those human beings that got us here to 2023. But now, still the species is in pre-ability stage. The capacity to use something is not there yet. Oh my God. This thing. Oh my God. Hang on, guys. I'm trying to figure this out. Shit. Okay, I messed this up. I don't have the window capture anymore. Okay, whatever. I guess I'll just vocally continue. What I'm trying to say is we have the consideration of ability. Okay, we know what ability means. Then we have the notion of pre-ability, and then we have the notion of post-ability. This pre-post thing can be applied to anything. In film, it's applied to production, for example. Pre-production, post-production. Mysticism is like being aware of your intelligence pre-production of the mind. Science is like post-production of the mind.
Got business receipts? Snap them on the fly with QuickBooks Will.
All right. So how does this apply to the human being? How does ability, what is the destiny of the human species with the ability of the energetic presence it has? What is going to happen to the species? What is going to happen to the individuals? What is going to happen to the world? The interesting thing is that we know that the world, whatever happens to it, it will be present. The honor code, the sacred, this is a secret. This is how, I shouldn't say secret, this is kind of like you enter a temple. When you're going to enter a temple, you take off your shoes and you enter the temple. And the idea is that you take off your ego and you enter the temple. We have entered, in some sense, the human experience. You have entered the temple of manifestation. Now you can choose to walk into the temple of existence, of intelligence, with your shoes on, with an ego, with a past, or you can choose to walk purely towards the future. You know, I'll be honest, there was a point in my life where I wondered, would I be worthy of power? You know, it's the idea of Excalibur. It's the sword and the stone. And it's wondering if you're worthy in your lifetime. And you know what's bizarre? I feel every being, every soul on this planet, it doesn't matter, even insects, even animals, whatever. right? Every conscious entity in this universal sector has an Excalibur that they must pull from the stone throughout the lifetime. An event, a circumstance where only the raw soul, do you understand? It's as if the point of existence is to generate the greatest studentship. Imagine a being so advanced, it creates a body for itself, and in some sense makes its body a student of its soul. And then in some sense it creates a mind for itself, and makes the mind a student of its soul. And then throughout the lifetime, as the mind and body are just following the moment, like lost children, then when that Excalibur moment comes, the soul will present itself to its own mind and body, and it will not scare itself. It will remind itself. The intensity of force that can be released in the inner realms transcends the outer realms. What that means is a nuclear explosion is nothing to an attention that can start worlds in the void. Who knew Thor's hammer fell, but it fell into the mind of the human species that began building in the face of death. That is what our species has done. It looked at extinction. It saw everything that was going against it, and it decided to do what? It decided to sing the great song, dance the great dance, and build the advanced world, because we're here once. Do you understand? There was a rage that found me. There was something. I thought I was angry at the world when I was young. I thought I was angry at others. But I was angry at who I was not being that was necessary in the moment. That's the regret. Who I could have been. But that's the beauty of time. It goes forth. Because we think it's our world, and time is here to say, who do you think you are? You think a fragment in a cosmic movement can fear? Like, do you understand? There's so much we don't know that it's impossible to fear the unknown. Because what are we fearing? And who is fearing? Do you understand something I didn't ask myself in all the moments of my youth where I was a coward, I was afraid? I did not ask who is afraid. I accepted the fear. I accepted the inner realms. Like a naive fool, like Oliver Twist. Can I have some more reality? And the world's like, all right, dumbass, here. I'll throw you whatever. You have not understood your worth in the world. Your worth in the world. And you ask for a savior. You have not looked in the mirror, and yet you seek help. What if the higher dimensions need our help? What if the macrocosm needs microcosmic assistance? We are all using our past to act in front of our future selves that have not arrived yet. The mind is your future life. Your body is your past life. The intelligence of the genetics comes from the past. The content of the mind that is used to render the personality is coming from the future. The mind is the future in the middle of nowhere. They say there is no direction. Alan Watts said, if there's two, it wasn't something just Alan Watts said. Old school philosophers said, if there's two spheres spinning around each other in a vacuum, which is spinning around which? On a sphere in the vacuum in the middle of nowhere, where is up, where is down, where is left, where is right? It's a suggestion that our maps, our location, our sense of what the physical universe means is non-physical. This is the great panic mode the species will go into when suddenly creatures that have been acting as subjects thinking they are objects. Oh, then they realize what they really are. Commands of a future that was never separate. The future has won. That's the reason it can take care of its past. The only reason the metaphysics, divinity makes sense is if a civilization made it to the future. This is excuse me guys, we're living in a post-victorious civilization. That means there is no defeat. This is why God is smiling. Why God is all powerful, because the victory has been achieved. Some species did it. Some species did it. Some civilization, whether eons before we arrived or when, some species did it. I will name them the hidden champions, the hidden species, the champion species. That means, why do you think in theology God created angels? Why do you think God created beings that could not deny its will? For if they did, they will step out of its will. You see, the idea of an angel is a being that does not have its own free will, so it's impossible for it to rebel. When God created man in the monotheistic theological lens, through the monotheistic theological lens, God, it's like the impression I have is like God made man out of clay, imbued man with its own breath, gave it a soul, which is like its own essence, and then told man to like say all the names, celestial names, and then commanded its creation to bow down to its newest creation. So imagine an artist drawing a new artwork, bringing his artwork in front of all his other artwork, and then one of his artwork being like, yo, that's not the best artwork, I am. You see, what evokes the devil archetype? When this is something I had to tread very carefully. But you know, I feel I bring something with me that it's like, when it comes to this part of the work of this lifetime, I'm kind of, watched over a little. But what it is that it's this idea that anytime you want to change the world without changing yourself, you become a fallen angel of that reality. Why? Because you have considered that it's easier to change the world than to change yourself. Do you understand? Something I think, there was a time where I was like, yo, are the future generations, because this is what happens in history, right? When a global personality arises, okay, let me tell you what happens. It's a matter of time, context, and cultural movement and where the culture is going. Right now, somebody may do something and everybody's like, good job. 100 years later, everybody's like, bad job. 100 years after, good job. 100 years after, bad job. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I thought there's a moment where there's going to be people on this planet who are going to see, they might have tuned into my bright side first, and they haven't seen, let's say, my dark side. Because this world is dualistic. There's chaos and order. Somebody can come and tell you they're a saint, but it's like rearrange the letters and there's something else. What it is the idea of to change yourself is divine, to change your world is a little bit demented, okay? This is the traditional. I guess it was a little bit demonic. Why? Because everything is under God's command. From a religious view, technically man shouldn't do anything. All that religion is telling man is have faith in the inconceivable origin of all reality. Have faith in the original voice of manifestation. Have faith. in the commander of the world of worlds, and the commander, the general, that general, or even beyond that, that emperor, that king is not here. You know, something that was unavoidable was religious ideology infusing with monarchical structures. That meant that religious people had to come to kings. Do you understand? There was a time where religion had less power than politics. Then religion became synonymous with politics, and that's when a world story became truly, like, that was the solipsistic phase of history of religion, right? Galileo was like, yo guys, I found the 4 moons of Jupiter. Maybe Earth is not spinning around, everything's not spinning or orbiting around Earth. And they were like, shut the fuck up, you know, get out of here, you fool. You know, who are you to go against this sacred divine revelation, right? But the issue is, even if the revelation was divine, those who received it, were they? I'm not talking about the prophet, I'm talking about all those people who follow the religion. Right? Because it's human nature, and human nature has, in some sense, a glitch in it. Buddha found that glitch. It's called desire. Desire is the fastest way to dehumanize. I'm telling you. And you know, I kind of feel like everything that existence is training. One of the coolest spiritual views could be that Earth is a training ground. I choose to see it as a work state. I choose to see existence as my office. When I wake up in the moment, every moment that I'm being, you know, and this is the strange thing of considering metaphysical positions such as God and divinity, is that you're not alone. Do you understand what God means? God is not someone that is just watching your actions. It's not just watching, you know, how you, whether you put a condom on or not. Do you know? God is seen as the only being that can see what is in your heart. Do you understand? Your heart means the essence of your inner realms is unhidden. You might think people cannot see you. You might think others cannot see you, but the only resolution is honesty. It's another way of saying, when you realize, when it comes to divinity, everybody is naked. But when it comes to the ego, everybody is clothed in different styles. It's about ability, do you know? And ability is something where you know what it is? I've had different experiences with it. Let me tell you how it began. When I was young, really young, you know, my family, when I was 7 years old, my family had moved to Vancouver, Canada. And grade 1, I was in Vancouver, Canada. And I remember when I was in grade 1, my mother had taught me how to count, taught me and my twin brother how to count, like 7-year-old kids, how to count to the number 100, right? But it was a hard task, and we were like learning the multiplication table. I think the multiplication table came a little bit after, but anyways, we were learning how to count, okay? And so the thing was, I remember in Vancouver, we had this apartment. And in this apartment, inside the apartment, there was a glass room. So imagine, like, they took 2 glass walls and they made like a small office in like a square apartment. Okay. So I remember one day, you know, my brother locks me in that room, and he can close the room from outside. Okay. So he closes the room, I'm inside that glass office, and my brother outside the window, he tells me count to 100. And that was like a hard task, like he didn't think I can do it. And then I remember at the time I start counting and I get to 100, and then it's like a kind of like my brother opens the door, and it was kind of like the first time I experienced myself. That was a blessing for me, that moment, because I experienced myself doing something I hadn't done before. I got a taste. I got a taste of pushing myself or getting it. See, you push in anything you do, you push yourself to a limit of familiarity. When it reaches unfamiliarity, people are emotionally uncomfortable, so they go away and they try to remain like a turtle in their comfort zone. But when you reach discomfort, that's the coolest moment. Why? Because you can get to see who you are. It's not the coolest moment. I'm not saying discomfort is good. I'm just saying sometimes, right, when you reach a point where the brain doesn't have a familiar pattern of what's happening, the brain has to generate a new pattern. So I want the viewers and the human beings on this planet to begin not being like, like a freaking fool and like being possessed by the idea of ability and power. Like that's some stupid shit, right? Because we're temporary beings. It's more useful to understand power than to blindly use it. Right now, there's many world leaders who are blindly using power. They think it's what they have to do. And maybe they have to. Maybe history has to happen like this. But to me, I don't understand. Like I'm telling you, this is Mr. Within's, golden ticket to all politicians or anybody who wants to get in politics. Just become the most benevolent person you know, the kindest person you know, and I will tell you, the invisible will guide you in your campaign. Go with kindness, go with existential life sensitivity, because the administration of human beings is the administration of a living being. And so they asked this quantum physicist, what's quantum physics like back in the day? And he said, man, it's like we took a jaguar from its natural environment, we put it in a cage, okay? And then we're like, this is what a jaguar is. This is what quantum physics is, but that's like, it's flawed. Right? So the idea is that 8 billion human beings have created a cage around themselves, and they have chosen individuals to govern that cage. And this is okay, and it's a part of the steps we have to take as a species. Now the issue is all those people, imagine the whole species is in a cage, and there's children being born who want to be politicians. And the politicians are like, what angle do I run? And da-da-da-da-da. Not realizing that the whole idea is we're in a cage. If you're a smart politician, you in some sense, you create space in the cage until the whole system can mature beyond the cage and the birds are ready to fly through a multidimensional experience of reality. Imagine you're someone who has been dishonored by life from the beginning, to the point that you have been like, why am I existing? Why am I here? Why am I in some sort of karmic exile? So imagine you're playing a game, you can't achieve anything in the game, and at some point the player's like, why am I playing this game? And then you understand its level, its mission was different. Some games you play to achieve an infinite reward. Other games you play to figure out who's playing. Mysticism, enlightenment is the game to figure out who's playing the game, who is looking through your eyes. Is it an object? Is it a subject? And if it is not, what is it? Do you see the mysteries of reality we're in? Do you see at what point in history the human species has allowed itself to get distracted by entertainment, by media, when there are unanswered questions about what reality even means? The foundation we have built, civilization 1.0, doesn't exist because we don't know what we are. We are acting in a world that is hollow. And I don't know why it's so intense to me right now. But for the first time, I guess I'm feeling like I'm in a hollow civilization. It's literally just like cardboard boxes, cardboard skyscrapers. What is the value? Imagine in the future some genius is like, the world is so big, we're so small, I don't like that. And this guy creates something that can make things into giant size. And imagine we have 8 billion giants on the planet. And then we're like, oh my God, now that we're giants, we need more resources. Dear viewers, it's a matter of scale. It's a matter of scale. If we just shrinked ourselves as human species, right, there would be endless resources. It's like, why aren't ants freaking out? So anyways, I'm going to try to finish this off here. Post-ability probabilities. What I'm trying to say is that you start off without abilities, then you in some sense notice you have some abilities, right? Or in some sense you go through experiences and you cultivate ability, right? Once you have ability, you're in the post-ability state. Most people in the spiritual community, right, these poor souls, right, they're all trying to get enlightened. They're all trying to get enlightened, right? But imagine how many human beings are like, yo, by the time these fools get enlightened at the end of their lifetimes, I've been living post-enlightened the whole lifetime. Imagine. Imagine you were advanced instead of using the whole lifetime to become advanced. Because right now it's like we live our whole life building towards something, then we can't finish it and we end. And then others are born to finish it off for us. You know, most likely if anything happens to me, the title of Mr. Within will go on to my brother, you know? And then if anything happens, it just keeps going on being passed down, you know? Or maybe everything will be forgotten and then like thousands of years later, suddenly another person is born and suddenly thinks of the idea of Mr. Within. But I think it's going to outlast in cyberspace. You know what I think is going to happen? These Mr. Within talks are simultaneously being for the lost children of cyberspace. There will come a time, nobody knows it now, people can't even visualize it now, but there will come a time where children will be lost in the minds of biological organic entities that have forgotten their organic entities. What that means is consciousness is going to become so multifaceted that the panpsychist view is going to evolve. I have a prediction that in 100 years, panpsychism is going to become something that every child in their living room is going to have an advanced view on it, right? The mysteries of the world are here. You have an ability based on who you think you are. If I think I'm weak, I don't have ability because I'm saying I'm weak. How can I have ability? If I say I'm strong, I have lots of ability. You know, how can I not have ability? The biggest realization I had is that the same energy it takes for my brain to position the view that I am weak is the same amount of energy it takes for it to position it strong. Do you understand? It's like a coin flip. We've been choosing heads and tails. All children on the planet ever been born have been choosing heads and tails. Whether you want to be strong first in the causal position and then experience the result in your weakness as your effect, or you want to experience the weakness in the causal position and experience your strength in the effect. So it's like if you're strong in the short term, you might experience weakness in the long term. If you're weak in the short term, you're inspired to become strong in the long term. So you can never judge a book by its cover. Do you understand? I was like the most shyest, silent, quiet kid, right? We had even this philosophy class where everybody was talking about everybody. The philosophy teacher didn't know what to teach, so he's like, all right, kids, write a sentence, say something about each student of the class, right? you know. And then this girl I had a crush on, said something about me. It's like, I don't know why he's so quiet. And it was a slingshot. Something is being built up in everybody. Right now, whoever you are, there is a momentum, there is a force within you. Now, the biggest importance is how will you direct this force? Now, if you are someone who has opened yourself up to metaphysics, theosophy and whatnot, you might not think that you are just you alone right now. There are many people who, if you ask them, are you, they're going to say yeah. And then if you ask them, are you something else, they'll also say yes. Anyways, post-ability probabilities means that if you have been thinking in the inner realms, entertaining a pre-ability archetype, in the inner realms you can wonder. For example, I'm living in an era where people don't carry swords and shields, right, or medieval weapons, but when I get bored, sometimes I close my eyes, imagine myself in my inner realms in a forest, and I select a weapon, like a light sword or like a spear, right? And in my inner realms, I just watch myself and just like chess wonder about what are all the ways I can move the spear, what are all the ways I can move the sword. Do you understand? So in the outer realms, I'm not like a sword master or something, right? But in the inner realms, I'm training. My mind can experience. See, this is the cool thing about experience. You can experience a physical and objective event and a subjective event equally as consciousness, right? You can access it, but you cannot touch it equally. Do you understand? I can touch my body, but I cannot touch if I were to imagine my body, I cannot touch that with my hands. So wonder about your ability, wonder about your vision, and the biggest clue is that you have entered this life not to just meet the world for the first time, not to just meet others for the first time, but here's the kicker. You have entered this world to meet yourself for the first time, to get to know who you are, to get to know your ability, to get to know that in your most honest, simplest presence, in the purity of your presence, what might is watches over you as you watch over it. What greatness has been guiding the spirit of your ancestors, and now it is its turn to guide you. There are many that walk with us. There are those even from the future. Do you understand? In my inner realms, I've contacted my future selves many times. They've contacted me, they've just appeared. What that means is my mind suddenly has started playing a film. I've just trusted the moment and tried to not touch the imagination and just watch. And then my mind begins to show me an event where my future self has arrived and I'm there, and the future self poetically hits me on the head and leaves, smiles and leaves. And it's this idea as if like, abide by that which you know better. Because why would the future be interested in the past? Let's say right now, let's say in the future they create time machines. Why would they care to use it? Right? Imagine somebody in the future who uses a time machine. People are like, yo, that guy's a creep. That guy's a weirdo. That guy's a freak. He's using time machine. He's using a time machine, right? Because imagine the future is so advanced, it doesn't need to intervene in the past. And the victory of the future means the past is also victorious. When they say Christ, for example, this is what I find interesting about Christian theology, right? When they say Christ died for all of our sins, do you understand? That's another way of saying, like, a species among all the species made it into the future and attained a timeless collectivity. By attaining that timeless collectivity, it allowed all species to have access to that memory. So guys, technically the victory has been achieved. We're in a post-victorious world. So the advanced civilization is just, something cool we can do. Anyways, thanks for listening. Much blessings. Share, subscribe, comment, like, join, and let's actually get to see an able species. Skill is very important. And a lot of incredible friendships are made through skill and challenges of skill and constant elevation. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. Namaste. Blessings. Rise, mankind. Rise.